Friends, I'm Linda. I'm going to explain you Break, 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 the poem, written by Alfred Tennyson. He was from 1809 to 1892. He had a friend, best friend, Arthur Henry Hallam. So, because of the sudden death of his friend, the poet or Alfred Tennyson, is in grief, he is in full of sorrow. He has all these, when a person dies, you feel so sorrow, sadness, so grief, so you won't concentrate on other things, you get concentrated on that thing only. So same way the poet's mind is also physically disturbed. Even though he outside he looks like that, but he is physically disturbed a lot. He is disturbed by the sudden death of his friend. Who is the friend? Arthur Henry Hallam. Now, before I go on to the chapter or the poem, let me just tell you the main points and the setting. Let me tell you what is the setting in this poem. The setting in this poem is in the seaside. In the seaside, the poet stands, and the mood of the poem is sorrowful and sad. The mood of the poet is also very sorrow. He's very sad. He's very sorrow. The year of the poet's friend is 22. The poet's friend is Arthur Henry Hallam. Okay. The poem is about sorrow. The poet loses his friend. I told you, as his sudden death. This poem is an elegy. What do you mean by an elegy? Elegy is a poem written in the memory of a person who is very dear to you, who is very friendly to you, who is very dear to you. This poem is an elegy. That is only meaning by elegy. ELEGY. That is the spelling of elegy. This poem has, what are the, I may ask, what are the metrical devices which are used in this poem called Break, 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 written by Alfred Tennyson? You may say, first one is repetition. Repetition means here in the poem, break, break, break. The repetition of break is repeating. Here I can divide it into 4 stanzas or 4 quatrains. So every quatrain consists of 4 lines. First 4 lines, next 4 lines, next third stanza and fourth stanza. So I have 4 quatrains and 4 lines in each. In the first stanza and the first line, break, break, break is repeated. And in the fourth stanza, the first line also, the fourth quatrain also I can tell. And in the first line, it is also repeated, break, break, break. So there is a repetition of break. Now, there's an apostrophe. Apostrophe. In this poem, you can see OC. So, importance is given for the C over here. The poet is giving a lot of importance for the C. Okay, so that is the meaning of apostrophe. The third one, personification. What do you mean by personification? Personification means anything which is given a human character, any non-living thing which is given a human character. Now, this mouse, this book, my mobile phone, my laptop, everything if I personify, that is only called as personification. My laptop is crying. Only humans can cry, but a laptop can't cry. So that is the meaning of personification. Okay? And here there are many personification. On the cold grey stones, sea. Your sea is personified as the cold grey stones. And also Here, one more place. There is a personification at the foot of the crags. At the foot of the crags. O sea. There's again sea is personified. So two places the sea is personified. Next is metaphor. Now we can't say that this line is metaphor, that line is metaphor, because the whole poem is a metaphor. The whole poem is like a metaphor. It is a metaphoric rhythm also, you can tell. The next fifth one is alliteration. Alliteration. Here in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 line that he sinks in his boat on the bay, that is an alliteration. And the stately ships go on to their haven under the hill, that is also an alliteration. Then, and the sound of a voice that is still, that is also alliteration only. Okay, next is paradox. What is this paradox? Paradox you can see in but oh for the touch of a vanished hand. But oh for the touch of a vanished hand and the sound of a voice that is still. That is the paradox. These two lines are the paradox. Then it is assonance. Assonance means a vowel sound. Assonance. Okay. And then in this poem, the poet has used enjambment. Enjambment. I'll tell you the spelling of enjambment. 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 So the opposite of enjambment is enstopped. Enstopped. What do you mean by, what is the purpose of this enjambment? The purpose of this enjambment is the movement of the sea. The movement of the sea. It is unstoppable. It is unstoppable. Okay. So the movement of the sea is unstoppable. It is moving on the sea, never stops at one place. It keeps on moving from the mountains, then towards its mouth, from the source towards its mouth. So it is keep on moving now. Next is juxtaposition. Juxtapose or juxtaposition. What do you mean by juxtaposition? Juxta. Juxta. POSITION. Juxtaposition or juxtapose. Anything is fine. This juxtaposition or juxtapose is the side by side. Whether the happy and happy or whether it is sad. The happiness, the sadness, happiness, the carefree, the happy moments, all these things. And the sad parts is the sad, which is heavy hearted, full of heavy heartedness, thinking of that incident only inside. And in outside they behave like normally, but inside they have a lot of fear, they have a lot of sadness, sorrowful. And what is the theme of this poem? The theme of this poem is death. Death of his friend, the poet's friend. And the power of nature and change. The power of the nature and the change. The dehumanizing power of uncontrollable grief. Because of the grief, it has dehumanized the poet or Alfred Tennyson. The poet has been dehumanized because of this grief, because of the tension, because of every sorrowness in his mind, in his heart, in his mind. He has sorrow, loss and impermanence. He has the loss of his whole friend. He has the loss of his best friend. His best friend is Arthur Henry Hallam. He has lost his friend. In the age of 22 only, his friend died. And the fifth one is the difficulty in moving on. He can't move his life. If he want to get out of it also, it is not getting him. His best friend, his best chap, his best chum or best friend. Okay? What is the tone of this poem? The tone of the poet or the poem is heavy-hearted. He is heavy-hearted. He is fully minded. He is very sorrow. And his mind is full of sadness, sorrowful. His life is not of happiness. We will see many instances in the in the poem when I keep on explaining. Next, let me just tell you the main points of this poem. The poem's deeper interest is a series of comparisons between the external world and poet's inner world. It is the outer world where life happens or where it is used to happen for the speaker or the poet. The inner world is which preoccupies now. The inner world has caught in deep palm and loss and the memories of a time. Absolutely, anyone will not have one memory. They will have their best friend's memory or their parents' memories. These memories keep on reminding them. If he sings, no, I should not remember also, those come into mind. Okay, so those are coming into the mind. And lost the memories of a time with the one who is gone. Who is gone? His old best friend, Arthur Henry Hallam. Best friend, best chap, best chum. Anything you can write, for friend, chum, chap, friend. Best chap, best chum, 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 best chap. All these. Microcosm. This microcosm is the inner world and macrocosm is the outer world. Microcosm inside me, macrocosm outside. My whole surroundings is the macrocosm. Macrocosm. MICROCOSM is the inner world in me. That is micro. Macro, MACROCOSM is the outer world, the surroundings in me. Okay? The grief. Now let me just give you a short note on the grief. On the poet's grief, how it has affected him. The grief has affected to such an extent that he has become little more than a feature of a natural world, just like the sea, but without its extraordinary power. Sea has an extraordinary power. It keeps on, even though many garbage, everything are thrown into it, it doesn't stop flowing. It doesn't say, I don't want to be there. You people are throwing garbage now, so why should I be there, and it can't go away. So like that, it has an extraordinary power. It has the control of itself. It has a control. The poet is making himself controllable, but it loses. Now if you catch anything, if you catch hair also, nothing here is there. Same way, if he wants to control himself also, it is like going away from him due to excess grief. But without its extraordinary power and without its mute indifference for grief and loss, the sea can't talk and tell that I am who. What is this people doing for me? But the man has everything to do. The sea is in a mute condition, but the man is in a mute condition. So this is the difference between the sea and the man. Okay? Now let us go to the poem, Break, Break, Break. I'll just show you the poem, Break, Break, Break. Let me start off. Break, break, break. Break, break, break. On the cold grey stones, O sea. and I would that my tongue could utter the thoughts that arise in me. Oh, well for the fisherman's boy that he shouts with his sister at play. Oh, well for the sailor late that he sings in his boat on the bay. And the stately ships go on to their haven under the hill. But oh, for the touch of a vanished hand and the sound of a voice that is still. Break, break, break. At the foot of the crakes, O sea, but the tender grace of a day that is dead will never come back to me. So now let me explain you. I read out the poem. Now I'll explain you a clear explanation, okay? Listen here carefully. Break, break, break on the cold grey stones, O sea, and I would that my tongue could utter the thoughts that arise in me. Here the poet says, the sea is indifferent to any stones. The sea is powerful, grey, cold. Here cold signifies the sorrow. Sea is indifferent to sorrow of mankind. So even sea is also physically sorrow, sad. Even man is also sorry and sad. But if sea says, I am so sad, so I can't give today water. But it can't say like that. It doesn't say also. So same way man, so only sea is indifferent from man. Okay? Yes. So the poet, and I would that my tongue could utter whatever feelings in him that tongue couldn't utter, the thoughts that arise in me. He has many thoughts that is rising in his mind, but all those thoughts, all these sorrows, sadness, all that he has kept in his inner world, he has kept fully in his inner world. He doesn't expose it. We know that the poet is in a grief loss because of his old friend, author Henry Hallam. Okay? Now let me read out the second stanza. Oh, well for the fisherman's boy that he shouts with his sister at play. Oh, well for the sailor lad that he sings in his boat on the bay. So here the poet is saying, the poet is very envy. Envy means very, so envious we say na. Means now if you get five chocolates, if I get 3 chocolates, I will be so envious to get more 2 chocolates. That is the envious. It's a habitual of every human. So the poet is envious on the fisherman's boy because the fisherman's boy is in a happy mode, in a happy man. He is a happy man. He is a light-hearted person. He is playing with his sister at play. He shouts, he plays, he is happy with that and everything. But the poet, if you compare to the poet, he is heavy-hearted. He is full of grief. That dehumanization with that grief. And also he has kept a heavy-hearted. And now he is a sad person. Not a happy person, but he is sorrowful, sad person or man. Oh, well for the sailor lad that he sings in his boat on the bay. Sailor lad, the sailor who is passing on through the river in his sea. He is singing, playing, dancing, and all this. He is so happy. Same like the fisherman's boy. He is also very happy, light-hearted. He's a happy man. He doesn't have any grief in his mind. So he's very happy. He goes playing, dancing, and all those doing. He went. goes, and he has a full enjoyment. But the poet doesn't have. He has full of sorrow. Okay, let us go to the third quatrain. And the stately ships go on to their haven under the hill. But oh, for the touch of a vanished hand and the sound of a voice that is still. So here the poet says, and the stately ships go on. That is, now these ships go on to the port. Now those ships are called as stately ships. They carry any goods or any now you know Amazon, Flipkart, all these are very promised for us, because of this COVID-19 pandemic, we are getting everything through online teaching, online buying of goods or selling of goods, all these. So these ships carry any goods to from one country to another country, or from one continent to another continent, like that. So these stately ships go to the port, so they are also very happy. They reach their place, they reach to a safe place. What do you mean by to their haven under the hill? This means that here the ports or the ships are going to the port very safely. Haven under the hill, a small port. They are very, very happily going. They are very full of joy. They are reaching to the safe place under the hill, the port, a small port. That is only haven. Okay? But oh, for the touch of a vanished hand. But this poet is waiting for a touch of a vanished hand. The poet, however, has no definite plan about his life, and he misses his friend Hallam, Arthur Henry Hallam, whose voice and touch he want to feel it. He is a dead person, but how can he feel it? He is so engrossed in that, I may say. And touch were so soft and so tender. The grief of the poet is terribly intense. The grief is growing more and more. Any person, the grief should be less, but the poet's grief is very more. The sadness in him, the sorrowness in him, it's disturbing him a lot. Okay? And the last line, break, 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 it is a repetition. I told you it is a repetition. It is the cease, break, break, break. It is a cease motion, break, break, break. If you tell it so nicely, you will get to know the meaning of the word break, break, break. That is the motion of the sea, break, 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 break. Okay? At the foot of the crags or sea. Crags means a steep or projecting rock. So the sea is hitting the rocks forcefully. But the tender grace of the day that is dead will never come back to me. So here, tender grace means the soft beauty, the memories and all those things, the good memories with his friend Arthur Henry Hallam are remembering him, but the person is nowhere. And the day is with the person only. The day is also dead and will never come back to the poet. The dead person can't come back to the earth now. Even though when he has the next Janma, he will come back. So like that, I have explained you all the stanzas or quatrains. These stanzas are also called as quatrains. There are 4 quatrains and with 4 lines. Now, we will see the question and answers of this chapter. Read these lines and answer the questions. Oh well for the sailor lad that he sinks in his boat on the bay. Who is in the boat? Sorry. So the sailor's son or lad is on the boat. Next question. What does the fact that he is singing signifies? The fact that he is singing signifies the boy's cheerfulness, and delight. How does the poet feel when he realizes that he is singing? The grief of the poet becomes more poignant on realizing that the boy is singing. But oh, the second question, but oh for the touch of a vanished hand and the sound of a voice that is still. What does the poet want to touch? The poet wants to touch his bosom friend who was dead. What does the poet want to hear? The poet wants to hear the voice of his friend and have a conversation with him. What is the mood of the poet when he writes these lines? The poet is in a depressed, sorrowful, sad mood, and he feels deprived of the company of his loved friend, author. Make sure the spelling goes correct always, okay? ARTHURHENRY, Henry, Hallam, HALLAM, Allam. Okay? Next, what? Answer these questions, B mean. What is the poet thinking of as he watches the waves breaking on the shore? The poet watches the sea battering the stones. He appears frustrated that the sea can keep moving and making noise while he is unable to utter his thoughts. The tongue is stopping him to utter the thoughts in him. The sea's loud roar, its ability to vent, its energy is something which he lacks. The poet thinks that the waves could rise and strike against the rocks or the stones, but his thoughts remain unexpressed. Next question. What does the phrase "oh well" mean? The phrase "oh well" means that everything is gone well or it is all well. You say it every day, na? It's "oh well" means it is everything is well or it's all is well. All is well. Why does a poet envy the fisherman's boy? The poet is envious about the fisherman's boy because he was light-hearted and a happy man, but the poet was heavy-hearted and a sad man, and he was dehumanized by the grief. What is the thing that will never return? The thing that will never return is the tender grace of a day that is dead will never come back, and the good memories are not going to come back to him. That day is only dead for him. Whose voice is still? The poet's friend Arthur Hallam's voice is still. Hope you like my video. Like, share and subscribe.